The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsball.
Futurama!
Hello. Good evening and welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Haina, and tonight joining me, Mr. Jesse Starcher. Hello, how you doing, sir?
Oh my goodness, I am so glad to be here to talk some Batman. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. There's no one else I want by my side to discuss The Dark Knight than our go-to master of the comic books. Tonight, we are discussing Batman Caped Crusader, brought to you by Bad Robot Productions, 6 and Idaho Motion Picture Company, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Animation, and Amazon MGM Studios. So, fun little story here, which I like to title Reason Number Captillion, Why David Zaslav is a Total Idiot. This series was originally developed to air on HBO Max. Zaslav is, of course, in charge. This is the same guy who nixed the Scooby-Doo movie, Coyote versus Acme, and basically has just been gutting the hell out of Warner Brothers and HBO Max. It's very sad. A lot of people really not happy with this man, but thankfully, the creator of this series, the almighty king of Batman himself, Mr. Bruce Timm, the guy who gave us I would argue actually, not only the best Batman series of all time, but probably one of the top 5 greatest animated series of all time, the 92 Batman animated series, was given permission to shop it around. He did, and Amazon Prime said, hey, this looks like good stuff. Let's pick it up. They did. It's awesome. It's already been cleared for a second season. Zaslav, you're an idiot.
Yeah. And I know going into this, there's going to be a lot of discussion about BTAS. That's right. I remember BTAS. We talked about that when we discussed, oh my goodness, I think it was Gargoyles. Or maybe no, we were talking something. Anyway, BTAS, Batman the Animated Series. Had no idea that that's what it was called. And unfortunately, one of my weak spots when it comes to watching, cartoon watching back in the day. So I don't really have that. I know about it. I know I've seen, obviously the bumpers and the commercials for it, but I never sat down and watched too many episodes of it. So the greatness of that animated series, I won't say it's lost on me, but it's a situation where I just don't have anything to compare this to, although it looks awful similar to the little bits that I've seen. So,
okay, first of all, you're grounded. You're going to go get your kids and you're going to sit down and you're going to start watching the series.
Is it being streamed anywhere?
Oh, it's still on it. Yeah, the original series is on HBO Max. Zaslav's an idiot, but he wouldn't dare take that off.
Oh yeah. Smart.
Yes, the complete 92 series is available on HBO Max. Let me put this way: that's the series that introduced Harley Quinn, that gave us Mr. Freeze's new identity, and gave us a new look at Two-Face's origins. It like I said, it's widely considered one of the greatest animated series of all time. It was brilliantly done. It's also where we got with Kevin Conroy playing Batman, Mark Hamill playing the Joker, 2 actors who, rest in peace, Mr. Conroy. We hear these names and we think of Batman and the Joker. That's how synonymous they have become with the role, and it's thanks to that series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the sad dark spots in my animation knowledge, that's for sure. But yeah, getting into this, I mean, what were you expecting coming into this thing?
It definitely looked different. It's interesting because, again, this is Bruce Timm's art style. It's virtually identical to what we saw that he and Paul Dini gave us with the original series, although there are little differences, and they took a lot of the characters in a very different design. This is
Mhm.
not the exact same Batman that we saw with the 92 series. This is a different one, voiced by Hamish Linklater, if I'm pronouncing his name right, an actor who I think most of our fans would probably recognize as one of the male leads in Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass.
That's right. That's right. We actually talked about that when we were discussing Serial
Mhm.
and on source material. And yeah, and again, going back and listening, now I can tell a little bit. Granted, Batman doesn't have a tremendous amount of time. Bruce might, but I don't know if Batman does. But anyway, yeah, it's. I really appreciate him as an actor and a voice actor. He's not that bad.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job. He is able to bring the gruff grittiness to the voice
Right.
of Batman that we've become familiar with. I mean, no one is ever going to replace Kevin Conroy, but I think he did a fairly good job.
Sure, I agree.
We also saw some changes with the character design. Probably the one that struck the biggest chord, interestingly enough, was the Penguin, who is
Oh yeah.
now a woman.
Mhm.
Oswald. Okay, I'm just going to say this. I have no qualms about switching the gender of a character for the most part, but the name Oswalda, Bruce, there are a million women's names beginning with O. You could have come up with something so much better. We didn't just sticking the letter A at the end
Hey.
is oh my god, that's like a She-Ra thing, okay?
Oh goodness. Yeah, I think I remember a little bit of discussion when this was first seen. It seems like most people, for some, well, I say most people, but there's a vocal bit of people that really have issues with gender swapping when it comes to characters, and like for some reason they let that be the defining thing for a character in an animated series, and I, I'm not one of those people. I mean, if it's a new take on a character, I'm okay with it so long as it's a good take on the character. I'm all right with that. Um, and boy, was she evil.
Yeah. Now, from what I've read, Tim basically changed the Penguin's gender because he felt that Batman needed more women in his rogues gallery. And he's not wrong.
Not
Batman's rogues
wrong.
gallery is like 85% women. The most popular female villains always have been Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Poison Ivy.
Right.
I'm trying to think if there's any others. I'm really, yeah, again, it's like those are the
You,
three that I think of.
right. I was gonna say you may start running into villains that are main main villains for other superheroes too.
Mhm.
But yeah, those would be the ones I'd rattle off.
And yeah, so we have actress Minnie Driver doing the voice of Oswalda Cobblepot, bringing her A game. She has given
She
this
did.
incredibly imposing voice and such a strong role. It kind of felt like they were sort of channeling a bit of a Sofia Falcone
Sure.
role with her. Very ironic considering how things worked out with the Penguin TV series.
Oh wow.
But that is really what I got with her role, and I was fine with that because, like I said, I felt that this was essentially just combining the Penguin with Sofia Falcone, and I thought it worked really well. And yes, she is evil, she is strong, and she gives a "do not mess with me" attitude. And I really had no trouble believing this woman was a crime lord.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the big moments, I'm pretty sure this is in that first episode where she actually kills one of her own sons,
Yeah.
which is crazy. But again, she's an unhinged, super villain. Well, and it's just that's unfortunate for him. His mom didn't take, doesn't respect him as much as he thought she would. It was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
He took a dive off a boat, if I remember right, or he got I think it was a boat. If he got knocked off a boat, I can't remember, but anyway,
But yeah, no
yeah,
tears, no hesitation. She believes that
none.
he's leaking information to the cops, and she doesn't even let him explain or try to talk. And it's revealed it's not him. He's not the leak. The other son is the
Right,
leak. It's
right.
like, you killed the wrong kid.
She wouldn't care.
No, she wouldn't. So we also got a bunch of really interesting characters. A handful I've never even heard of, including Nocturna, aka Natalia Knight. We get a new version of Clayface, the Basil Carlo version. We have a character called Onomatopoeia, which
Yes.
was okay. So again, you're the comic book guy. Did you know more about these characters going in, or were some of these just like, wait, who the heck is he fighting?
Yeah. As far as like comics go, I'm clearly more Marvel leaning than I am DC. So when it comes to DC villains, specifically Batman villains, I know most of the big guys that you probably have seen in the 90s. My understanding, because I did do a little bit of research here, our Clayface is one from the Golden Age. So that's definitely out of my wheelhouse. The Harley, obviously, Selena Kyle, obviously, know who that is. As far as Onomatopoeia goes, I've never read a comic book with him in it. And I love this villain. I need to find more. I need to find some comics and to read with this villain in it because it's so over the top, so silly, but it still brought a menacing presence to Batman, which was pretty cool. So I dug Onomatopoeia as a villain.
Yeah, just a character who doesn't talk outside of saying the sounds that he makes. Bang, swish, whoosh,
good.
pow, punch, slam, ow. It's so weird, but you're right. And there is a little bit of a goofiness to it, but it's fun, And yeah, I would like to see more of this character come in, since we know he's a hired killer. We have him, we see him and Deadshot, who are trying to take out what they think is the contract on Jim Gordon. No, it's on Barbara Gordon. But there is room to bring back hired assassins on this series for the second season, and I would love for him to come back.
I so much agree. It's a great way of like meshing comic books and animation there too, as well. We get this villain that just uses nothing but what you would see in a comic book as dialogue. So I absolutely appreciated it.
Definitely. And yeah, I hate to say it, but I think it does make me want to read more comics with him in it. So mostly because as much fun as it is to hear him say those sound effects, it's got to be like 10 times as fun to read it.
Right.
Yeah.
Gentleman Ghost was another one that didn't know who that was. I had no clue. I thought the aesthetic and what was brought across there, the supernatural elements to this villain, was pretty cool. And that was the episode where I was like, how is Batman going to beat this guy? Because I didn't know Batman's street level, he's going to beat you physically somehow. And I was like, how is he even going to touch the Gentleman Ghost?
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say that I loved the way that ended, because we brought in, was it Papa Midnight? Is that who it was?
Yep, that was Papa Midnight. That's one of the guys who has had to help rein in John Constantine.
You're right. So I love that. We covered a lot of ground like throughout the series, giving Batman a different. It's a great way to open up with a first season. Give them a villain that stretches out across. We're not just going to be, dealing with the mob or the Gotham City crime bosses. We're going to also introduce elements of the supernatural, and that doesn't just happen there. You mentioned, oh my goodness, who was the girl again? The girl in the circus.
Nocturne, Natalia Knight.
Yeah,
who again, I had never heard of.
Me either. And it was kind of refreshing. I think that's important to have new faces, new season. It's a brand new kind of take on Batman, and I love the introduction to some of these villains who you just haven't heard of, because it gives everybody kind of like a level playing field as to what to expect versus what not to expect. It's all kind of up in the air. How's he going to do this?
Absolutely. Not to mention, you get a great episode. That episode with Gentleman Ghost really brings home more of the bond between Alfred and Bruce, which is something that this year, starting off with the series, you notice that Bruce, or as when he's in Batman, always calls Alfred by his last name, Pennyworth. It's like,
Pennyworth.
good job, Pennyworth. It's everything. He doesn't call him by his first name until the very last episode.
Right.
So it kind of, you get this idea that they're not as close yet, or maybe Bruce is trying to keep him at a distance, and he has to realize he doesn't need to keep Alfred at a distance. Every version of Batman, Alfred has always been just 100% loyal to Bruce, has always been there for him. He's the one who fixes him up medically and helps him run Wayne Enterprises and takes care of him, and he's the shoulder to cry on, and he's the sturdy rock for him. Always has been.
Yeah, Batman Bruce's arc throughout this is like one of those elements is his humanity, and he is very distant and cold as we start out. I mean, like I said, as Batman, he's just very methodical. It definitely seems like he has very little emotion. And then as we steadily progress, it's very small. I mean, shoot, he's going through therapy in some of this, which is interesting to kind of watch Bruce have to do some of that. But yeah, you start to see him as a person try to work through the trauma that he has endured and maybe kind of open up a little bit in his shell when it comes to his emotions. And yeah, it's kind of tough to let somebody in after something like that. And even somebody as close as Alfred, he probably, just like you said, he probably kept him at arm's length. Try not to let him in because he probably doesn't want to care for somebody in case he loses them again. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to watch Bruce go through what he does in this season.
Definitely. And there is a continuing story arc, even though most of the series is new villain per episode. We do have a continuing story arc because with the arrest of Oswald Cobblepot in the first one, we create a power vacuum. And we get to watch Rupert Thorne, who fans of not even just fans of the comics, fans again of the 92 series should know him. Rupert Thorne was a reoccurring villain and really, oh my God, what's the guy? I'm blanking on the guy's name. The guy who was the dean in Animal House.
Oh my goodness. It was right there, right when you said it too. I want to say,
hang on, I'm looking it up.
All right, yeah, go to the internet because I was about to say Dean Cundy, but I think that is a guy that worked on Back to the Future, so that is not it.
No, that is not. Okay, give me a name. Scroll faster, darn you.
Dean.
John Vernon. John Vernon was the voice of Rupert Thorne in the 92 version, and he was so imposing, and I loved it.
Cedric Yarbrough as the voice here for Rupert Thorne, is that right?
Yes.
So you probably know this person, the voice actor, better than I do. Any idea what he's done, or can you see?
Let's take a look here. Reno 911, Speechless. Officer Meow Meow Fuzzy Face on BoJack Horseman.
All right.
Yeah, this guy's mostly a comedic actor. So
wow, interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
But yeah, he's really good as Rupert Thorne in this.
Yeah.
He's also the voice of Papa Midnight as well.
I think I've recognized this guy. Was he in? Now I'd have to look this up. In the Boondocks.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, as far as villains go and villain voice actors, he did a good job.
All right. And the other biggest change probably came with when they announced what they were doing with Harley Quinn. Because, well, first of all, Joker is not in this season. He shows up as a cameo at the end. It's essentially doing what they did with Batman Begins. They're hinting like he's out there. But we do not see him until the very, very end. And we don't even see his full face. So we don't even know what he's going to look like.
Right.
We don't know who's going to voice him or anything. Whoever did that one line of dialogue at the very end of this season was uncredited.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
well, best of luck. Boy, do you have some shoes to fill.
No kidding. I can't even begin to imagine who they're going to get to play Joker. in
Yeah.
season 2. I really don't.
Yeah, that was one of the things as I was reading and researching some of the reviews on this. A lot of people are like, you know, they understood where sometimes they need not compete with the animated series because the animated series held such high regard. And also, specifically, the one I was thinking of that I watched was talking about Clayface and the episode with Clayface and what they did there, because apparently the Clayface episodes from BTAS was like, I mean, they're really, really good. And the character seems a little bit different as well. Like the character we get here is a little bit more evil than what we had in our previous, in the 92 show. So go ahead.
Well, the version of Clayface is a character. Clayface is a name that has been given to a couple of different characters throughout the comic books, and they've done a couple of different versions of him in various different series. The Matt Hagen version from the BTAS series, voiced flawlessly by Ron Perlman.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I am never going to knock that man in anything he does because he is incredible.
Wow.
Was a very different role than this, with Basil Carlo, who voiced by an actor named Dan Donahue, but he doesn't even have a Wikipedia link, so I can't pull him up to see what else he's done. But this is a very different character. They're both actors, but Matt Hagen in the BTAS series was crippled in an accident, had his face horribly disfigured, and essentially he overdosed on a chemical produced by, guess who? Rupert Thorne, which turned him into this maniacal shape-shifting monster. Basil Carlo has a similar beat where he is also given a remedy that allows him to change his face, but he's not this shapeshifter, I can create whatever I want kind of a thing. It's more he can just rearrange parts of his body, and more so just relies on his incredible acting technique. It has almost kind of a Lon Chaney Jr. feel to it.
Yeah, that's the thought that I had running through my head. Not only, I mean, I definitely throw back to some of the actors from the 30s and 40s, just based off the name alone. I was thinking Boris Karloff, which is not anything. I mean, it's Basil Carlo?
Yeah, it's not a coincidence. That is not a coincidence. They named him like that on purpose.
Right. But as they, speaking of the villains, they said a lot of the villains here compared to what was going on in BTAS. And I want to get your opinion on this because I don't really know for sure, but it seems like a lot of the villains in this series have more selfish motivation than a lot of the villains in the BTAS series seem to have. Now, granted, I'm sure there's probably some outliers there, but would you agree?
Absolutely. And that was one of the big things about the BTAS series that a lot of people loved. You had characters like Clayface, Mr. Freeze, hell, I'd say even Catwoman, who are they're evil, they're bad, but they're doing it for altruistic purposes. Boris Karlo, Clayface, is not doing anything because it's like, oh, pity this poor man. It's like, yeah, he's had a rough go of it because with his looks, he was constantly cast as a villain, but he's still a bad guy. And you got Catwoman, who they really take her back to what they had with her in the original comic books. I would say kind of like the golden era, where she is just a thrill-seeking thief. She is not an animal rights activist. And they completely cut any relationship between Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne. They share one scene together upon which someone insults Bruce's parents and he slugs them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So not very many redeeming qualities for some of these villains then. Okay. All right.
Which I was fine with. The main thing that was important with this series was to not repeat BTAS. When you get Bruce Timm back, and I know that obviously Warner Brothers, when they approached him for this, they were hoping for lightning to strike twice, and that was never going to happen. So the best thing they could do was to make this a unique series so that it would not be compared to the 92 series.
Right. Did I derail you when you were, did you say what you wanted to say about Harley?
Well, again, it's just she is such a different take on the character, especially because the big thing that Bruce said he was going with for this new iteration is that Harleen Quizell was a psychiatrist who became Harley Quinn. When she was a psychiatrist, she was serious, she was disciplined, she was well trained, she was really good at her job. And then she became Harley, and she's all kooky and fun. This version, Dr. Harleen Quinzel, is more laid back, more easygoing, a little more silly. And when she's Harley Quinn, she is scary as hell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember just when she starts going down into her basement or wherever she's at, and she has these people like in these cells. I was like, what is going on here? This is, this is a different level of what I'm used to. So, yeah, she's definitely a scary villain when she's a villain.
I do also like the theory of why she dresses like a clown. Again, in the original take on it, she dressed like a clown to appeal to the Joker. In this one, she is essentially kidnapping the ultra rich, the ultra wealthy, and she is saying it's like, you are no longer the kings. The jester is ruling this court. She literally puts herself in a lower position than these higher ups to show how much they have fallen.
That's some psychology right there. Man, oh man.
And there's a good chance she will come back. We have we end that episode with Harley having to ditch out of Gotham, calling Renee Montoya and saying, "Hey, I got to cancel our date, so I got to leave Gotham. Adios." So we could have her return.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that. What do you think of Harvey Dent's arc here? You were talking about over series arc here. That's definitely one that seems to stick out. Old Two-Face here. What's your thoughts?
It was very different because this is not a version of Harvey Dent that I've really seen before. I've always identified with what we saw in the BTAS series or in the Dark Knight movie, where Harvey is, again, very altruistic. He is a good person. He is the White Knight of Gotham. Here, he's kind of a jerk. He's very conceited. He willingly takes the bribe from Rupert Thorne. And I'm just going to say it was watching the animation with him where I realized that I was having trouble with this series.
Okay.
The characters, the animation is beautiful. The movement, the colors, the lighting is amazing. I have a problem with the faces.
Really?
I do not think they're very expressive.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I read was that a lot of people had issues with the stiffness of the animation. And not only that, I mean, they weren't specifically pointing out faces. They were just talking about how things just seemed kind of still and static in some situations. So that definitely supports what you're talking about. But they were also talking about things that were happening in the background where characters would be and just to be a static image of the background and nothing would change. So there was some definite criticism about how cheap some of it looked, but I mean, so yeah, I get that. Me personally, when I was watching it, I'm not too invested to where I'm like, okay, well, what's this look like? As long as I can see what's going on, usually I'm pretty pleased. But I assume that if you're doing this, comparing this to BTAS, it's probably night and day. I would, close, I should say. We'll just put it that way, but no cigar.
But yeah, when Dent gets his face scarred up, it's just impossible to tell really what he's thinking, even though we hear his voice switching back and forth. And credit to Dietrich Bader, who was doing a phenomenal job with the voice. But it really bugged me that I'm looking at him talking and it's like, I don't see a difference in his facial expression at all. It's like I see the eyebrow go up, I see the eyebrow go down, and that's it. So I was hoping for a little more expression.
Yeah. I think if I was to criticize the animation in any way, or be a critique of it, there were definite spots in some episodes where I was like, oh, this looks really good. The firebug episode where they show like the kids on fire and that stuff was really that knocked it out of the park for me. I was like, oh, that really looks good. But again, I didn't have anything to complain about in regards to the animation. There was just other spots that looked better than some others.
Yeah, there are a few spots where it's clear that they really saved their money. I think the one that caught me the most was that final shot of Batman across from Rupert Thorne's penthouse, and he sees him standing with the lightning strike going around him. just that the shading of all the lighting is like, oh my god, it's like, okay, now it's like we know where that money it's like that's the money shot right there.
That's the money shot.
That's the money shot.
Oh goodness. Well, I'm trying to think of some other things that I ran into. I mean, so we got Harvey Dent with a long arc. We already talked about Batman's kind of arc throughout here. All these villains, it definitely is a situation where, okay, we're starting with Batman very shortly after he became Batman.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't have he's running into these villains, it seems like, for the first time every single time.
He doesn't have the rapport with, he gets more of the rapport with Gordon by the end of the series, but yeah, by the start of it, Gordon's just like, oh, okay, what the hell do I have to do with here? So I think that's always the telltale of how long Bruce has been Batman is what's his relationship with Gordon like.
Right.
I think that's your sign.
Yeah. You can definitely tell where he's at here if you see the bat signal in the sky or not.
Yeah. He's got a freaking phone number in this.
He's got a red bat phone.
I was expecting the bust of Shakespeare to be next to that phone line. I swear to God.
Oh goodness. So yeah, I mean, as far as characters go, I think for myself, Onomatopoeia sticks out just because of how fun he was. The Harley stuff was interesting. I knew that was going to be Harley Quinn. And I mean, I don't know if anybody missed that at all, but I was like, okay, that's going to be Harley, right? It's got to be Harley, right? And then finally it was confirmed. And I think as far as the genesis of Two-Face, I think it was worked pretty well. To watch him kind of fall and get turned and, he's going to become this villain. That was pretty good. Help me out here. I mean, how does the season end for Two-Face? I cannot remember. I just remember him turning and that's about it.
He takes a bullet for Barbara Gordon.
Oh, and he dies or
he dies.
Oh, wow.
He dies in Barbara's arms.
Obviously forgot that. Wow. It has been a few weeks since I've watched and finished the series. And I will say that I watched it with my boy. This is another cartoon series. I got to watch X-Men 97 with my 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and he wanted to watch the Batman one. And I didn't think he would catch on to it because I watched the first episode, and the next night he was like, hey, you want to watch Batman again? I'm like, yeah, let's watch Batman again. So it was fun to kind of sit down and watch this with my son. So I like that.
Yeah. Seriously, though, go watch BTAS with him.
he
was to see this.
He was all about like wanting to watch the old episodes of X-Men, and we watched the Phoenix Saga. So yeah. I have no doubt in my mind he would love to sit down and watch BTAS.
Definitely.
So it's going to have to happen.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you caught this when Dorian and Robert and I did our triple feature before Halloween. We were joking about the scene in Salem's Lot with the dead vampire boy floating outside the window, and how the Simpsons kind of took that shot as their own for that one episode of Treehouse of Horror. And then Dorian admitted on air that he has never watched a Treehouse of Horror episode.
I do remember that. Everybody melted into a puddle, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Robert and I were just like, what? It was just, but you could see this look of just like shock take over both of our faces. We're like, what? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Oh, wow. What else you got there? Anything else?
All right, so yeah, you keep talking about Batman's arc, but honestly, I didn't really see that much of an arc with Bruce or Batman.
It was extremely subtle. It was just like, okay, he's a cold, calculating crime fighter, and it's not like he, every episode there's just that much more of a monumental step. It's so like we take our time, and granted, really, it's probably hard to point to an episode in between the first and the last where he talked about how he called him Alfred. Mm-hmm. It's probably hard to point to an episode where it seems like, oh, okay, he's lightening up a little bit. But I think there'd be some instances in there where you can. watching him kind of work through some of the stuff, specifically, like I said, with therapy, what he was trying to do there, it shows you that, he's somebody that's going to, at least as a human, as a person, he might be able to deal with things a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, you're right. There isn't much of an arc there. It's just very, very, very subtle.
And I think that's what I'd like to see more of in season 2. We don't need to see the scene in the alleyway. We don't need to see the roses and the pearls.
Correct.
Again.
The pearls.
Always with the pearls. But I do want to see a little bit more development of this character. Again, Linklater did a really good job filling in and playing this role. Again, any actor who wants to play the role of Batman, it's like, okay, now I have to, follow in the footsteps of Kevin Conroy. Shoot me.
Right.
That's hard. And I thought he did a really good job, and I'd like to have seen more of him. Hell, I would have liked to have seen more of him as Bruce Wayne. We get very limited time with him. He only shows up for a few episodes where we actually see him acting as Bruce Wayne. I would have liked to have seen more of the parallel between Batman and Bruce.
Right. There was a moment that kind of took me by surprise. And again, this is probably one of those moments where, it shows where we're at on the Batman scale as far as age-wise and how long he's been doing Batman. In the episode where they're at the circus, I cannot remember the name of the episode, but that's with the Nocturna episode. Batman kind of gets his butt handed to him. I think he's Bruce at the time. And I was waiting for him these carnies beat him up, and they definitely put the hurt into him. And I was like, why is he overwhelmed like this? Because he's freaking Batman. And then I realized, well, he's not probably as skilled as I think he should be, because it's this early in his career. So yeah, we're going to have more. I would like to see more growth for this character. And I think that's probably what they'll shoot for season 2, to watch him get better, to watch him grow a little bit. With the Joker, I don't know what they're going to do, but they have the opportunity to use that character to really, really get under Bruce's skin. So if he wasn't too peeved at some of these villains this go round, the Joker could bring it out of him. And as dark as some of these villains are, we might get a pretty dark Joker as well. Right? And I don't know how much further you can take that, but I'm very, very curious as to how they're going to do this. Are you, and tell me, how much Robin was in BTAS? A lot or not? None?
It actually went back and forth. Robin was introduced, I believe, more to appeal to a younger audience. I mean, this character at one point literally says, "No problemo, Batman." So
nice.
Yeah. So he shows up for some of the episodes, not all of them. I'd say majority of them are Robin-less. And of course, then you have the new Batman Adventures, otherwise known as the Red Sky series. This was a redesign they did after they came out with the Superman animated series, and they wanted both these shows to share the same animation style. Okay. So we get Batman gets a little bit of an overhaul with his look. Most of the characters do. If you go on YouTube, you will find so many videos talking about the redesigns, especially the redesign of the Joker, and what the hell they were thinking with that.
Oh, really?
That got weird.
Okay, all right.
Hang on, I'm going to find a picture here, and I'm going to pull it up.
Oh goodness, look at us, technology. I'm trying to think if I've seen it, because I've seen so many different versions of the Joker as far as animation style and 16-bit and 8-bit style. I should probably say 16-bit. For some reason, what's going through my head right now is probably Batman Adventures on the Sega Genesis. If I remember correctly. All
right, let's see here. Hang on. Okay, present, share screen, Joker redesign, share.
And this is from what was the name of the series again?
This was the last season of Batman the Animated Series. It was just called The New Batman adventures.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
if you keep it's all linked together on HBO Max, but yeah, what you're looking there on the screen, that's how the Joker looks in the final season of Batman the Animated Series.
Wow. Okay. All right. Reminds me of Johnny Bravo for some reason. I don't know why, but
He's not wearing sunglasses.
right. Just wait
But
for him to flex and hoo-ha, hoo-ha.
I will say though, it is made up for with the Scarecrow's redesign.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Load faster. That's
Wow.
Scarecrow, voiced by Jeffrey Combs.
Seriously.
And they only had him for one episode. It was such a waste.
Wow.
I hate that Dorian's not here because I could really make him cringe. Scarecrow is his favorite character, his favorite Batman villain. And he was just so mad that Jeffrey Combs only appeared in one episode.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's
a sick redesign. I'm all right with that. That
Me
looks pretty
too.
good. Pretty darn good. Yeah.
So, okay, well, speaking of Scarecrow and the like, okay, so we do have, again, we've got a couple of villains from the DC era and early Batman that we probably are not familiar with. But knowing what you do about Batman's Rogues Gallery, if you had to pick another villain or two that you would want to see show up in the second season, even if it's just literally one episode like what they did with Clayface and Catwoman, who would you pick?
Oh, what a great question. So this is tonally, this series is kind of weird for the villain that I would want to show up. I just mentioned how much, I just mentioned how much I was a 90s guy and how much I enjoyed the 90s rendition of, that was probably when I was reading some Batman comics, was in the 90s. But, most of this series, it feels like it's taking place way deep in the 40s. You got, and that golden era, Catwoman has a car that looks like a freaking cat.
She is literally jumping around in a dress and heels.
So it's almost like the villains that I want to see show up would almost stand out. And I guarantee you they'd have to okay, we've got to take this character and we've got to try and make them fit in this universe in some way. And I don't think that would hurt anything. So I mean, why am I not wanting to see Bane? Because I want to see Bane. I want to see Bane show up. Now, the thing is that Bane now has such a connotation to him. Like, he is the guy that broke the bat. He is the guy that, so if anybody sees Bane, that's the first thing that's going to go through their head is like, this is the guy that's going to be the problem for Batman, and Batman's going to have to rise above him in some way. So I don't know if they would want to do that, to be honest, because they probably are like, let's just keep this, as far out of the reach of other people's ideas of what's going to happen. So Bane is probably one of those characters where they're just like, nah, we'll stay away from him because he's too big. I wish I knew some D level villains for Batman. Killer Croc would be fun to see.
Ooh, Killer Croc would work really well in this timeline.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Killer Croc. So I'll go with Killer Croc. If you can't do Killer Croc, then go ahead and see. I want to see what you do with Bane, and then kind of go from there. How about you?
Well, since we just talked about him, I want to see Scarecrow. I really think they could have some fun with this character in this redesign, in this new version. I think the idea of someone who, manipulates fear works really well with the theme with this.
I agree.
So I'd really, because I've started thinking about other Batman villains, but I started thinking they wouldn't fit into this timeline. Like, again, Mr. Freeze. I adore Mr. Freeze, and I love what they've done with him in the past. I don't think he works in this version, though.
Okay.
Not without completely changing his origin story again. And frankly, Bruce, if you touch Mr. Freeze's origin story, you are going to incur the wrath of so many of us. Like you and Paul Dini, they're the ones who wrote in about his wife and his sacrifice. They're the ones who created that.
Yeah. Very, very well beloved origin story. And I remember learning that. I don't know if it was on the podcast with you or if I was on a podcast with the guys from Unspoken Issues, Nate and Derry. But not having all this reverence I have for should say for BTAS and all that. When we covered the holiday issue of Batman Adventures, I believe is what it was. And it was fantastic with the story that I love the story they told with Mr. Freeze, because Mr. Freeze is like doing nothing but like and this might actually have been adapted, I think, to an episode where he was.
There was an episode, but they cut the Mr. Freeze part. You got the Harley and Ivy brainwashing Bruce.
Okay.
You got Batgirl teaming up with Detective Montoya and Bullock to take on Clayface. And you get the New Year's party with Joker, Robin, and Batman.
And they took out the one for Mr. Freeze. And that was one of my favorite ones, because he essentially just makes the whole town just continues to make it snow and snow and snow. And the only reason he does that is because his wife loved the snow. And Batman and him go at it, I think, at her gravesite. And it's good. It is. I really liked it. But anyway, yeah, I don't touch that origin, because that tragic backstory is really good. Really, really good.
Absolutely. It was so good. Even Joel Schumacher kept it in the Batman and Robin movie.
Right.
So yeah, definitely going with Scarecrow. I think it could be fun to see what they could do with Poison Ivy.
Okay. All right.
But I'd like to see him more as in like she's okay. I know we've seen several story arcs where Poison Ivy has created like a spore that infects Gothamites and essentially turns them into zombies. I think something like that could work well in this story.
Okay.
So I'd like to see that.
How did remind me, how did Bullock fare in this at the end of the season? Because they were him and I want to call him Flass. Yeah. They were some real crap bags in this series,
which really shocked me because, guys, I'm sorry we're going to keep comparing this to B-Taz. Okay, I'm sorry, but Bullock he's an asshole in B-Taz, but he's a good cop.
He's a good guy.
He is loyal to Gordon. He hates Batman, but just because he thinks he's a nuisance, not because he's against the work he does. And there are multiple story arcs where Bullock's in trouble and Batman helps him. And he's like, I give you hell all the time. I constantly complain about you to Gordon. Why are you sticking your neck out for me? And Bruce is like, or Batman's like, because you're a good cop.
Yeah. And in this iteration,
he's not a good cop.
No, he is not a good cop. He's they tried to murder a couple people, if I remember correctly, and I think they do. They murder Firebug, don't they?
Yeah.
Like they toss him off the roof and kill him. So did Bullock? Did anything happen with Bullock? Were there any repercussions? Did he die? I can't remember what happened in this.
We actually don't see what happens at the end. He's not dead. He and Flass are cornered, which actually led to what a lot of people thought was one of the most controversial moments in the series, and that is. So Flass and Bullock are trying to take down Harvey Dent before he testifies. Flass gets in a shot. He aims it at Barbara. Dent takes the bullet for her, and Flass is ready to take another shot. Batman steps in, knocks the gun out of his hand, and Flass is just like, "What are you doing? You're just a punk vigilante. I'm a cop." Batman picks up the gun, points it at Flass. Try not to aim directly at the camera, and fires around him. He doesn't actually shoot Flash. He gets bullet hole. And then you see him going like, and then he throws the gun. But it's so weird.
Wait.
To see Batman holding it.
He throws it in anger because it didn't work, or he just was upset about the whole situation. What happened?
Well, that's the thing. We don't find out. I mean, anyone who knows Batman knows he hates guns.
Right.
He's always refused to have one. He's extremely anti-gun. So so when he threw it, I thought it was just like, oh, I hate this gun. But it's like, why did you fire it then? It's so weird.
That is strange. Yeah, that's the first thing that would come to my mind, seeing him pick up a gun and fire it at somebody. Which again, yeah, you would see him take the gun and throw it first before he fired anything. That's strange. So that was that Flass. Bullock, I assume, was knocked out. You just don't know what's going on with him or something.
Actually, Gordon got it. Jim Gordon cornered him and forced him to drop his gun. Okay. But that's literally the last we see of them.
That's it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I could see that. I mean, the way that they're characterized here, they're going to come back and work for Joker. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. If
I
we're
mean,
going to see him next season at all.
they were in the employ of Thorne, so I guess it comes down to what's going to happen if Joker goes up against Thorne.
That's
Because
right.
that's going to be where the headbutt comes in. Again, I think they're playing this very close to what they did with Christopher Nolan's Batman arc. The first one knew to work on the power vacuum of the mob and what happens when costumed criminals start coming in to fill that void. And the second season, I think, is going to be now the mob and dealing with an unstoppable force that is the Joker.
Yeah. Well, that'll be so it's already been greenlit. Are we looking at a time frame yet, or is it too early?
Too early. Last I checked, it was in production, but I can't find any other notes about release dates or casting or anything. So
okay, well, I figured it was because that season just ended like a couple months ago, right?
Yeah, they dropped all the episodes at once.
Do you like that, or did you not like that?
I'm not against it. It's a toss up, really. I mean, you have streaming services like Netflix that drop everything at once, and then you have things like HBO Max and Disney Plus that release one episode at a time. And I can go back and forth on, both of them. On some that's like, yeah, when Stranger Things, drops all at once, it's like, yay, I get to binge all of it. Speaking of which, I got something to show you.
Oh,
guess what?
What is it? Is that the Turtles? And yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been wanting to check that out. Nice. Have you started in it yet?
Not yet. Just picked it up earlier today.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Picked it up along with
DuckTales from Dynamite.
I cannot resist these books. I got Scrooge McDuck and the Infinity Dime and What If Donald Duck Became Wolverine. I cannot resist those books.
There is oh boy. What If Donald Duck Became Wolverine?
Yeah, I got it. Oh my God, I love it.
I'm going to have to see that. My gosh.
If you live close to me, I'd loan it to you. I got it upstairs.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Yeah, actually, I also finally got In Trade.
Oh my goodness, Doomsday
Clock.
All
book.
right. That's nice. We did do a podcast on it. If you haven't listened to it, read the book first and listen to us discuss it. That's a very, I think they did a decent job. They were trying to, we're trying to make Watchmen seem like a legitimate DC thing. And I liked the story that was being told there.
I also put in orders for trades for Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and Zatanna Bring Down the House.
My goodness. Your comic person's going to love you.
For what it's worth, I try to buy all my comic books as exclusively through a local shop called Bebop Comics. They're within walking distance of my house. They got 2 locations, one here, one over on the Kansas side. It's owned by one guy. He's awesome. He's friendly. He's been my go-to comics guy. And you know me. I'm a big supporter of small businesses.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So I always try to order a bunch of comics. Not to mention, a lot of these are not coming out for several months. So it's like, hey, when it comes out, put me down for that order. So
very cool. Very cool. It's always good to support your brick and mortar.
Absolutely. Then I just love having big, thick, beautiful books like this to put on my
put it on the bookshelf.
Yes,
indeed.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem is that the guy who was working there. It wasn't the owner; it was another guy. He was telling me they had the first few editions of the Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and he's like, "Why don't you just pick them up?" And I said, "No, I want to wait for the trade. I like the trade. I like having one thick book."
Yeah, because it contains the story that you need. Yes, 100% agree.
Yeah, and I love being able to put it on my bookshelf. I've got an entire bookshelf just of trades of comic books.
This Saturday, I'm going to send you a picture. I'm heading over to my buddy Seth's house, and we're going to play Dragon Age, and you would not believe the 3 or 4 bookshelves that he has that are just completely filled with hardback, like Sandman, What If, much. I think he just picked up the recent G.I. Joe omnibus that got dropped. It looks beautiful. That's all I can say, because he's got it lit a certain way, and you're like, how can you make like a bookshelf full of comics look good? That's how you do it right there.
You know, they also just, I don't know if they just released it, but they just had it at the comic shop. The omnibus Elseworlds complete. Elseworlds Batman, Elseworlds Superman, and Elseworlds Justice League.
My goodness.
I really wanted them, but I was on
those
a budget.
I was going to say, those things are expensive. If you're, I mean, granted though, you get everything in one big thick ass thing, but you be ready, because you're going to probably drop close to $100 sometimes. It's up there.
Yeah. Oh, and I need to tell Nate, I just finished Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville. Another one he recommended.
Fire and Ice. So this is Fire and Ice, the superheroes that went. They went to Smallville. Interesting.
Fire got a little out of control, and Superman sent her to Smallville to cool her heels. And Ice.
Who wrote it? Any idea?
Oh, the book's upstairs. I can't remember who wrote it.
I'll look it up.
But yeah, I just finished it and I loved it. We still got to do Spider-Punk Battle of the Band on this show too.
At some point we will, for sure. My goodness, we have a lot. Now that you've got Stranger Things, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I mean, that's right up my alley. So we'll have to put that on the agenda.
You get a copy of this, we'll put it on the schedule. No qualms.
All right then. Done deal.
All right. So hey, those of you who follow source material, you got something new to look forward to.
That's right.
All right. Was there anything else we wanted to talk with Cape Crusader? Again, we don't have any info on the second season when it's coming out. We have nothing on casting yet. It's in production. They haven't released any teasers, any notes, or anything. As soon as they do, we'll probably be sharing them on various pages. When season 2 comes out, I know we'll be reviewing it. Hopefully Mr. Dorian Price will get to join us. He was supposed to be here tonight. Sadly, his internet was glitching in and out, and essentially he didn't want to come in, and it's like, hi, I'm Eat. Yeah, welcome to the Eat. Yeah, I'm so happy to be the Eat.
Oh, man. I know how that feels. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, Mark knows how that feels every time he asks me to record while I'm driving.
Well, that's to be expected.
Go check out our Peter Pan and Wendy review if you don't believe me. It's one of the more embarrassing moments, because the problem is that when you record in the car, you have to mute yourself whenever you're not talking, because you're driving on the highway.
Got all the background noise.
Yeah, all the trucks, you have all the stuff in the background. But it's really bad then, because you can always tell when I'm about to talk, because all of a sudden you're there. It's just like Alexa's just turned off mute. It was really bad.
Well, that's dedication, though. When you're doing a podcast in the car, that's dedication. I can't say that I don't know if I've ever done that. I do know you are not the only one, because I remember Robert Cooper, many times driving home from work and reviewing an album with us. And yeah, the same thing. You could hear him driving. It was bad.
Yeah, Jason Teasley has done a couple of reviews in the car for us, and I'm grateful for that, because poor Jason, I never know where the hell he is.
Hey, he's all over the place now.
I know, right? Just like, I have no idea where the hell what part of the country that man's in.
No kidding.
All right. But yes, so Batman, Cape Crusader, all episodes are available on Amazon Prime. If you're a fan of Batman and in any way, shape, or form, go check it out. Again, it is a really different look at what we've seen before, because it is a real fun look back through the nostalgic lenses of the 40s and 50s. I really enjoyed it. I liked what they did with most of the characters. The animation, while a little stiff, was mostly on point. There's a lot of really great fight scenes. I mean, the action animation is glorious. The voice 100%. Acting is all on top. They got amazing voice actors for this. And yeah, when season 2 comes out, we'll hopefully have a lot more stuff to talk about.
I love it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So you want to go ahead and tell us where our viewers, listeners, and all the other people who are curious enough to actually pay attention to us, where they can find you and what you got coming up?
Yeah. So, hey, I do a podcast called the Source Material Comics Podcast. Well, you can find the Source Material Comics Podcast feed out there on any podcatcher. Source Material is the main flagship show where we talk about comics of any era. So it's kind of like a book club for comics. And then we have the Unspoken Issues show where we discuss 90s comics. And that right there is on the same feed. If you like 90s comics, you can check that out. And then recently, myself and Evan Bevins got together and we discussed our experience with last month's and this what's upcoming seasons for Marvel Snap. So it's called Snap Material. Yeah, I really put a lot of thought into that name. Snap Material, where we discuss Marvel Snap. And usually it's about 4, 5, 20-minute episodes that drop once a month. So we're in the process of dropping all those episodes right now in the middle of talking about the last season was We Are Venom, and this upcoming season that just started recently is called War of the Nine Realms, which is a lot of Asgardian stuff. Your premier card is Surtur, so yeah. Anyway, that's about it. That's all I got going on.
All right. So we're going to be doing a couple of TV party tonights coming up here pretty soon. We unfortunately had to postpone Agatha all along, mostly because I couldn't find anyone who wanted to talk about it, strangely.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
Oh,
I literally got so busy. It was on the schedule, and like 2 days before, I was like, wait, I don't have anyone else on for this. Anybody want to review this? No one did.
Crickets.
Yeah, just absolute crickets. But we are going to be looking at the Penguin, speaking of DC, since they just ended their first season. I know that it's been confirmed we're getting a second season, and Colin Farrell has confirmed he's going to show up for a couple of scenes in the second Batman movie. So this is not the last we've seen of Mr. Oswald Cobblepot. We're also going to be looking at Only Murders in the Building, season 4. That's one of mine and Mark's favorite shows. We always love talking about it.
I might be asking to be on that. Me and my daughter said, hey, you need to start watching this show. And I was like, what show's that? She's like, Only Murders in the Building. I said, I've heard so much good stuff about that. So me and the wife just finished season 1 last night. We started season 2 today. When's the season 4 coming out or happening?
It's already happening. I just haven't had a chance to start watching it yet.
Okay. All right. Don't schedule it too soon. No, whatever you do, give me some time.
I have so many shows I have to watch for Mark.
I understand.
All right, so yeah, we got all that. We're also got a ton of Damn You Hollywoods coming out. I need to check and see if I'm on Gladiator too, because my husband is demanding we go see that opening weekend. So I may ask to jump in on that one. So other than the shows like that, let's go ahead and move on to the plugs that actually do pay my bills. And that would be Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We just wrapped up our conventions. Our last convention for the year, that was the Twin Cities Con, and it was absolutely amazing. One of the best turnouts we have had. We had so much fun. We're definitely going back there next year. Looking forward to it. Not to mention, I just love working in Minneapolis. It's a great town. I love the people up there. So it is now time for us to start getting ready for the holidays and for our Black Friday sale. We have 2 online shops. I'm going to pull up the Etsy shop here. You can find us here on Etsy or Handmade at Amazon. We've got tons of fun geeky stuff and a lot of fun superhero stuff, including a few things inspired by the Caped Crusader and some of his Rogues Gallery. Now, what we always do with our Black Friday sale is that it also kicks off our charity drive. From Black Friday to Christmas Eve, every individual order that is placed, either from Etsy or for Handmade at Amazon, each order that is placed, we will donate $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We've done this for the last few years, and we are going to be doing it again. We're big supporters of the Children's Hospital. So if you see some geeky stuff here that you absolutely love, you're looking for some fun accessories as gifts for those you love, and you want to help out a really great cause, go ahead and look us up. You can also always find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I'm never calling it X, and TikTok. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. And sneeze.
Oh man.
I was like, I have to get through this before I do that.
Oh, I was in the middle of recording with Evan last night, and I went on like a 12 sneeze tear right in the middle of my plug. It was like the worst thing ever.
What happened? Somebody throw a thing of pepper in your
I don't know. Like I'm sitting there. The episode went all the way to the plugs, and then all of a sudden it's just like I could not stop sneezing trying to get these plugs out. Gosh, I wanted to throw something. I'm like trying to figure out. Like, luckily I recorded it, so I wasn't completely live. It's getting all edited out. It's just no way. But trust me, I feel your pain.
Oh, I'd include it. I would keep it. I would that would be like the awesome memory of when my sneezes took over my podcast.
The super sneeze cut.
Yes, exactly.
That was bad news.
Yeah, eat it, Snyder. We got the real cut.
That's too funny.
Well, for myself and for Mr. Jesse Starcher, thank you for tuning in. Everyone, have a wonderful night.